Well, it's a real pleasure to be able to bring you the first real decent update since we entered the external mediation process, as you know, that we was forced into via the High Court. Now, we never believed that that mediation was necessary. No mediator is going to settle the differences between us and Royal Mail Group. There's only two people that can do that, and that's Royal Mail Group and this trade union working together and coming up with the right agreement. So, you know, we were forced into that process with Royal Mail adamant on some of these issues we've been in dispute over, actually entering the process saying that they believed that the mediator would totally understand and accept their position. Well, all I can say to you is that there's been a fundamental change during that mediation in respect of the business's attitude. And I absolutely believe that that change of attitude has been driven by the massive yes vote that you produced, that all of our reps and all of our members working hard together to make sure we got the message over to the employer that their path to the future was totally unacceptable to us, and we needed to deal with these big challenges of offering genuine security to our members, employment, standard of living and pension security to our members. Now, one was a contributing factor, I believe, as I've already said, a significant factor was that massive yes vote. But the other one was that we gave notice to take industrial action on the first day that we possibly could. And I think in hindsight, that has made the business realise, if they didn't before, that they're dealing with a very serious union who's determined to get the right agreement for its members. And that in some way, shape or fashion has seen them change their direction in these talks. So it's it's a pleasure, as I say, to be able to speak to you again on this basis. But two, it's an even bigger pleasure to say to you that the mediator has now published her report on the talks. The mediator went away over a week ago to write that, and we have continued negotiations, which is promising. So we haven't waited for the mediator report. So to some degree, it's like a historical document, the mediator's report. Things have even moved on since then. It's important to stress that it's the mediator's report, it's not an agreement between the union and Royal Mail, but it maps out really what the mediator saw in those 4 weeks. And it also, more crucially, maps out where we believe progress has definitely been made. And I'm going to try and relay that to you now. All the branches will be sent a copy of it, but it's important that that's not circulated in a way that that's some form of an agreement, because it isn't. It just is another influencing factor in our talks as they go forward. But I have to report, and I'm pleased to report, that the strong position that we have taken has absolutely changed direction in these negotiations. So as we sit here today, we have, I think, a far more philosophical agreement with the employer as to how we take things forward. We've got to deal with the detail. But as a massive example, the employer has now accepted that we will develop one pension scheme for all of our members, that it will be a wage in retirement scheme, that there will be an element of defined benefit and guaranteed, and that there will be an element of shared risk. But it will be targeted to genuinely produce a pension in retirement for people. It will not be a scheme that simply cashes out the moment you retire. It will be a wage in retirement scheme. Now that is a significant shift by any standards when you consider where the employer was when we went into our dispute. And we are delighted that that progress has been made. The fact that they have accepted that has sparked a completely different conversation with how we take it forward. So for example, to have the scheme that we would like, the scheme that I'm describing to you, there has to be legislation introduced. It's already law in this country, but the regulations for that legislation has not been drawn up. Now, you know, politicians can drag their heels. We've got all the things that are going on with Brexit, but we are now jointly connecting with people to try and ensure that we drive through that legislation as quickly as possible to enable our new scheme as we develop it and agree it. But what we're also doing is, in anticipation that because of the uncertain political climate, you know, that may go on for some time, we're also dealing with transitional arrangements. And I can assure you that we will make it clear both in the agreement that we make or any transitional arrangements, that we have started the process of addressing the issue of the totally inadequate pension being offered to our DC members. And the outcomes of this will be something that I think as a whole union we can be proud of going forward. So huge optimism that we can move that issue forward, of course backed by our membership and our huge ballot result. We've also started to move the issue along on pay and what pay would look like. There's been a couple of offers now. They're still not where we would like them, but there's an offer on the table of a 2-year deal. It's an offer that also contains an hour off the working week, but it doesn't go far enough in the strategic goals that we want in terms of ensuring we try and protect your standard of living, but also moving the shorter working week issue forward, not just in 1 hour, but how we agree a flight path to 35 hours. A 35-hour full-time job will be absolutely crucial in the future. With the new technology coming in, with the decline in letters, the only way for us to maintain a decent full-time job will be a reduction of those hours. Now, philosophically, I believe the employer is in the same place as us again, but we've got to work much harder to have a clear time frame, if you like, to move into that 35-hour week. It's got to be a commitment like any other commitment, and it's got to be one where we say we're actually going to do it. Not that we might do it, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it in certain timescales. So we're trying to move that issue forward, but definitely even on that issue as well, and the issue of pay, things are moving forward. So I can only say to you that the whole essence of us trying to move things forward, and the pipeline is another key one with people, where management, as you know, going into this process was trying to say there would be a 5 o'clock last letter for people. Now that position has drastically shifted again in this mediation, and I feel confident that both the employer and the union are now talking far more realistically about what we can do with our pipeline, how we can ensure that we don't disrupt all of our members' lives and push everybody later into the day and affect everything that's going on in their lives, how we can protect that, but also ensure we're in a position to continue to try and grow this business with new products and services, as well as trying to promote the core in letters rather than just accept its decline. We've got to promote that product as well as getting new ideas for how we deliver parcels and keeping pace with the competition in parcel world. I feel that conversation now is in a far better place than it was before we balloted and before we entered that external mediation process. So I would hope people are glad to hear that. We genuinely believe we're on course for achieving an agreement. Now, there'll be some people that will get sort of all obsessed with the fact that we should be taking industrial action. And I want to reiterate what I've said all the way through our campaign. The idea is we use our collective strength to lobby our employer and get the right agreement for our people that gives them the security going forward. Build a bridge between our current agreements and the next few years that gives us the stability and the security so that we can continue to work with this employer with confidence. It isn't about just taking strike action. Now, if we don't get that, if we feel and we sense that the momentum in these talks and the positivity starts to dry up, or the employer changes its position, or we get to red lines on the issue we're trying to resolve, then have no doubt about it, we will not hesitate in giving notice to take industrial action. And for those people who believe that this was just a stunt by the employer to get us past Christmas, of course they didn't want us to take industrial action in Christmas. Of course it's the busiest time. Of course there would have been a bad reaction for the employer, but also with the customers in some sense, and some of that would have come back at us. But if that was required, if we'd have gone into this mediation and seen no progress, then that's exactly where we would be. But that's not where we are at the moment. We're making considerable progress, and I hope when people see the report and they see the information we put out and we see how we start to revitalise our comms going forward, I hope that the membership and the activists of this union will see, by the campaign we run, by the ballot result we return, by sticking together and not pulling each other apart, we will end up with the right agreement for our people. And if we can do that, without costing our members one penny, then that will be excellent trade unionism, in my opinion. So to be absolutely crystal clear, all the time there's progress being made, all the time these negotiations are sensible and balanced, and we believe the employer is responding to us in the right way, we will continue those talks. The moment we sense that that is not the case, if it is some ploy on their part to just try and drag this union along, we will soon sense that in these talks, and if that does transpire, then we will come back and we will hit them with everything we've got. So our position is as serious as it ever was. It's as serious as it ever was about reaching an agreement, not about costing our members money. We will only take strike action if it's absolutely necessary. The good news is there is absolutely a different conversation going on with this employer than there was over 6 weeks ago. We have moved things forward. My only disappointment is I'm so disappointed that the business didn't do this 9 months ago, 8 months ago. We would have been in a totally different place. But regardless, sometimes you have to kick up the dust to clear the atmosphere. I feel that's what we've done. I feel we're starting to talk on the same language to each other, and I feel confident that we will end up with an agreement that this union will be totally proud of.